Hello there, welcome to Empathetic Educators. I'm your host, Naomi Toland, and today is a little bit different because I am actually interviewing myself. In one of my recent posts on YouTube, one of you amazing viewers commented and asked the question of what was my Wimp2Warrior experience like? And you really wanted to know about the mental journey that I went on as part of it. So I thought, why not? As part of this season of change for season one, I thought I would go through the different ups and downs of the journey and what it was like to take part in it, and really through the themes of growth and accountability. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so let's go back to even before I started the training. It was this time last year, and I was doing my whole I need to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. But that's when I realized that I put on 10 kg, which is a stone and a half for, well, depending on where you are in the world. And it really was a big awakening for me. It made me realize that I needed to do something about my relationship with my food and exercise, basically, because that was not good. I was your typical yo-yo dieter losing weight for a bikini season, and well, that didn't even happen. And I was signing up to gyms, but basically paying for the gyms to stay open because I wasn't paying for me to go. But it was more than just the physical side of things. I really wanted to change my mental state as well. Um, I am and was a very critical person of myself, and I was always looking to do more and achieve more and be like a people pleasing. And that was like a really big part of me at that time. And so I thought I was extroverted, I was happy, I was very outgoing, and I still am, but it was always at the detriment of thinking about, am I doing the right thing, or comparing myself to others. And I just didn't feel in a mentally fit state. And so that's whenever I came across the Wimp2Warrior. And I don't know if phones are listening to us, then it could be very likely, because I was talking about what I was looking for. I was looking for something to do with boxing. I was looking for something that was challenging. I was looking at something that had at the end of it some sort of outcome or some sort of goal to work towards. And ta-da! On Facebook, Wimp2Warrior came up that it was coming to Auckland. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And it was going to put you through the techniques that put you through all of the challenges, but it really focused on you being accountable for yourself, and that's it. But going back to the theme of accountability that we're looking at in all these books, that's what I wanted for myself. I wanted to look at how can I be accountable, and how much more accountable can you be than getting in a cage at the end of 20 weeks. So that was my really big driving force towards signing up for Wimp2Warrior. So I signed up to the Wednesday evening tryouts, and it was wintertime in New Zealand, so I literally remember it. I remember driving in the dark after work to the evening tryouts, and I remember sitting outside the gym being like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm going to go in there, people are going to think that I'm stupid, people are going to think that I can't do this, why is she signing up to have a fight? And I think that proves my mental state at that time, just very negative. And of course, many of us who I speak to have these things daily. And I think that's what I wanted to challenge myself was, it's okay to not be confident in yourself, as in not know what you're going to do next, but have confidence in the fact that if you're going to try and give it your all, that's what I wanted to believe in. I wanted to believe that I could at least try and do that. So after I got over my whole mental thing that I was doing in the car before I went in, I got out. I went into the gym, and my first instinct was, this is going to be a good place, because sometimes whenever you go into gyms, personally, I don't like whenever people are walking around flexing, showing off, wearing all the latest gear. I really like the fact this gym seemed like it was real. I don't know how to describe it more than real. It seemed like people were there it smelled real. It smelled like a gym, which smelled like it was like getting hard work in it. And it just really had that authentic feeling in it. And I don't know, people who have been to city kickboxing before, they probably know what I mean. Um, but it just felt, yeah, it felt real. And so the environment for me was definitely it kind of made me feel more safe. And so Eugene Berman, he would be eventually be the coach. And so he was telling us the group was pretty big actually. And he was telling us that the group would be split up into three different groups, and you'd work on showing your mental strength, showing your physical strength, and showing your overall fitness. And so it was all about endurance for the mental side of things. And the way they sell it is that you're proving how good you are, so then they're going to choose you to be that person. So my whole thing was constantly reflecting, am I doing good enough? What's going to happen next? And I think that's what I really liked about it was I was proving myself to them, but the more I was trying to prove myself to them, I was getting better mental awareness for myself. Like keep going, keep one more rep, one more thing. Show them that you can keep trying. And that's what I really took away from the first tryout session was keep trying, keep doing it. Whatever they say, give it your best. And that's what I was looking for. I was looking to challenge myself, but challenge myself in my capacity. So yeah, that was a really big eye opener for me. And I was hooked after that. After that tryout session, I was hooked, and I wrote to them straight away that week and I said, I'm in. Please let me in, basically. And that was a big, big takeaway for me. So I signed up, and on the 22nd of July, I was starting the sessions. But I had a couple of weeks to go. When I first signed up, I was like, right, I'm going to start training, going to start doing everything to get prepared, to start really ready to go on the 22nd of July. But did that happen? Definitely not. I went to Sydney. I was very indulgent with food, with drinks. Yeah, I was not prepared or preparing in those 3 weeks to start. But on the 22nd of July, it all began. And I remember sitting outside again, telling myself how I shouldn't be signed up, how I shouldn't be going, how I shouldn't be doing it. And I think many people did feel like that to begin with as well, because the atmosphere in the gym on the very first day was a totally different atmosphere from what would soon happen. And in a short, very sweaty weeks, these strangers become amazing friends and still are amazing friends with the Wimp2Warrior family. And it's weird actually to look back at some of the videos now when I'm getting this video ready, and to see how slow and how uncoordinated, and yeah, just like I was starting from the bottom, starting from basics. And that's what I'm so happy about, is looking back at those and seeing how much I've changed. Because I remember actually not just looking at the physical side of myself, but knowing that whenever I was recording those sessions, the mental side of me as well, like I wasn't pushing myself. I was just kind of doing enough. And whenever Eugene walked past, I would kind of like stop. And I remember not being at the mental capacity of keep pushing myself to do more. And yeah, that's what I enjoyed looking at the videos about. But I think I'm going to put up a little image of my vision board, because during this time, I actually went to a Robin Banks training before the Mind Power. And that was really cool to actually go through some goals for myself. And I was kind of signing up because I knew I wanted to create some change and create some confidence in myself, but I didn't know what I was actually striving for. And if you see, a lot of them is about my hair, and there's obviously fight images on there, and there is like money things I was going for, my YouTube channel, and my education side of things I was looking at. And I think that was a really great turning point for me, because it made me kind of see what I was accountable for, like what I was striving for, what I was looking for. And that's what I really, really enjoyed about that time. I look back on it and I know that was the time that things started to change. Not completely, because I still went to Singapore during that time. I think it was like week 9 or something of the training. Went to Singapore and took part in the Google Innovator training. And I enjoyed myself as well. Was with my uncle and was with some amazing new friends that I met from the Innovator course. So I enjoyed myself. But I wasn't completely committed yet to the whole fight scene. And I think it was whenever I came back from that holiday or that trip to Singapore, that's whenever I realized that it's in 10 weeks your fight is. You need to really get your self in gear. And that's whenever I started to notice myself thinking about what I need to do. What is it going to look like? Holding myself accountable, going back to that accountability piece. I feel like the first couple of minutes have been about growth and been about being open to growth. But I really think the next couple of minutes are more about accountability. So how can I hold myself accountable for what I'm trying to do? And I think that kind of ties into the book that I'm reading this week about, yeah, the subtle art of. Um, it's it talks about not about visualizing what you haven't got. It's about visualizing what you have got. And I think the biggest quote that I took away from this book was, if you're constantly working on what you haven't got, then you're constantly at a deficit. You're constantly thinking about what you can't do, what you want to do, but you're not doing. And I think that's the way I was at the start of the session. Like that's what I was very much about. Oh, I've signed up gyms, I'm not going. I've done all this before, but I haven't signed up, and very much about what I'm not doing. But whenever on the 10th week, 11th week, it started to change into that ability to think about what I can do and what I can do with what I have. And that's really a big mindset shift change for myself that I've really seen. That growth piece is, what do I want to do? Obviously, having goals, setting goals. This book's about not setting goals. It's about setting goals, but looking at them from the lens of what can you do about it, and holding yourself accountable, which is a big, big thing throughout the last couple of books that I've read. And that's what I seen a big difference is. In that week 10, I came back and I was like, what can I do? What am I available to do? So I started doing runs. Every single day I was going for a run. And from, like I said, the very start, hated runs. Hated it. I never thought I'd be a person who enjoyed running. But that's something that I am now, which is weird for me to say. And that's really what was a big driving force for me then, was I started to change into, I can do this. And it's not about there's some days I went in and I was like, I'm not feeling it, but then I would change myself into, what can you do about it? And I really started saying to myself, which is what I say to myself now, you're only as strong as your weakest member. But my weakest member was me. My weakest member was me saying to myself, oh no, just stop after that rep. Or my weakest member was me saying, oh, don't run today. Or if I was running and then I wanted to slow down, I was like, nope, we can do this. And being kind to myself, I wasn't saying, why do I always think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. I was thinking, it's okay that this is what I'm feeling at the minute and this is what I'm thinking, but keep going. We're fine, keep going. And that's what really got me through. So there was running, and then once I was nicer to myself, it actually made me go more, because then I was finding that I could. It was only myself that was telling me that I couldn't. And that was a big, big, big mind shift change for me, which I'm really, really excited about. And I'm happy that one of the viewers did ask me about this, because it really ties in with the theme. But I'm really excited to do this reflection, because even thinking about it now and looking at the videos that were from the start, there has been a lot of growth, and I'm really proud of myself for actually having that. So during this time, I had some amazing coaches. Brad Riddell, who is one of the UFC, who is part of the UFC Auckland this year. He was our coach, who was fantastic. I was always there to answer questions, especially closer to the time of the fight. Whenever those nerves, I'll talk about this soon, but whenever those nerves were coming up. And our main coach, Eugene Berman, who I mentioned before, he is the most level-headed, sincere, authentic person I've ever met in my life. And I think all of us were just like, Eugene, the coach, was just amazing. And he really did push us, and he wouldn't let us be slack or anything, but he always held himself accountable for us. And I think that's what I always felt. I always thought that fighting would become this angry, mm, hating everyone and hating the person who you're fighting. But it was through his calmness and through his, that's not the approach. It's about the sport and it's about the respect for the sport that you're actually going through. That's what I really, really got taught from Eugene and Brad and Frank Hickman, who came from Thailand, who's part of Tiger Muay Thai. We were really lucky. We were a really lucky team. We had so many amazing coaches, and we actually had Alex Volkanovski and Dan Hooker come in as well and do some training with us. Because on the lead up to their fights, they were obviously training in city kickboxing, which is just, it's kind of surreal to even think that. And I'm hopefully going to be doing some interviews with Eugene and with the other coaches. But I have got some footage from Israel, who came and done it. It was just the week before our training was finishing up. He came in and done some training with us, and that was a big day. And he brought in his belt, and he allowed us to kind of get that feeling. And so here's some inspiration and some words from him whenever we were allowed to ask him some questions. So here's some footage from him.
If I let myself. The thing is breathing. At the last fight, that's why I said I do things like you'll see me sometimes. I'll just like breathe, and I actually say it just to remind myself, like, breathe, and you just feel it. Like you breathe from here, from your diaphragm. There's some kind of weird chakra in there that you can either. I've had it before, and I've still won the fight where I've like when I was younger, just walk around, fixing back and forth. You see it, and you know, I ain't getting the fight. Like, why is my jab so slow? You know, like you get well. Breathing. That's some of the techniques that really helps breathing, and not breathing like real kind of breathing. Breathe from here, like, and just sit there. Meditating as well really helps. I don't know if you guys believe in that stuff, but it's science, literally. So meditate and breathing helps you control your nerves. Okay. Moving years ago, it was just like when you walk through those doors, this is your safe space. Especially this day and age, you know, with everything that's happening with me, because I have to be so many places and travel and stuff like that. It's hard. So sometimes when I come here, I feel safe. I feel like no one can bug me, no one can bother me. Even if the person, the issue is with someone that's from here. Even when I'm here, all that kind of stuff is a way of just like when I come in, at the old gym it was easier because there was a door I bow in, but there's that door now. Whenever I come in, I bow. That's a way of just kind of like releasing, showing respect to the sport, but also just like leave it behind. You know, I'll deal with it later. And then come here, do whatever I have to do, wrestle, hit mitts, you get all that testosterone out, and then you have a clearer brain to deal with whatever the issue is. But personally, I'd say just dealing with it, talking to the right people. I said therapy, that's good for me. Also, reading the right books or listen to the right books really helps. But yeah, here, all that stuff gets left behind. When you hit the bag, when you're sparring, when you're rolling with the boys, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, you have to stay focused. Because I've seen people in the fight where they lose focus for a split second because of something that's, you know, bugging them, and then lights off. So the safest space for me is here. When I'm in here, I have to be in the moment, and I don't do all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
All the bros. Good question.
I think a big takeaway from all the coaches, but Israel especially, was how humble it is, how humble they are, and how obviously you have to have, and that's what confidence is. I think that's what I've really enjoyed looking at, is the difference between confidence and arrogance. And I think the whole theme of this video is how I got confidence myself. And I always thought that putting yourself forward and believing in yourself is all about bravo and all about look at me. But that's the complete opposite to what the top fighters in the UFC, that's what they're showing. Obviously they have confidence in themselves. They think I can do this and this is what I'm here for. But that's about holding yourself accountable, and that's about believing in yourself. Arrogance is whenever you think that you're better than other people and you think that they're below you. And that's just not what I got from Israel and from Eugene and from Dan and from Alex and from Brad. Is it's very humbling to be around them because they are successful, but they don't show it off. And like you seen, he was just sitting there and they were listening and we were listening to them, and he was just being a person. And I think that's what I really enjoyed about it, was the confidence that he's shown, but it's not about arrogance. It's about believing in yourself. And that was a big takeaway for me and from him, from all the coaches as well. And so that brings us kind of to before the fight. And a few weeks before the fight was a roller coaster. That was we're talking about mental fitness. That was a big, big, big time for me, because I think the closer it got, we were finding out who we were fighting. We were finding out what times we were on, where it was. All those things were starting to make it become real. And yeah, that's whenever I remember it was probably the fight was going to be on the Saturday, and it was probably a week and a half, 2 weeks before I had to get my bloods taken for the fight. And I hate needles. Like, it's my one pet, it's my one fear in life. It's like going to the doctors and going to the dentist. And so that was a bad enough day as it was. But I think that got me into that negative mind frame of I can't, I'm so weak. And I could really do remember going back into that space. And I came home and I was talking to Rob, and I just was like, I can't do it. I'm not, this is, how am I going to get into this cage if this is what I'm telling myself, this is what I'm doing? And it was really great to have that person to talk to, but also have my team to talk to as well, who were going through it. So the next day, me and Rob went sparring, and that got me back up again. But had been able to spar with Rob and been able to kind of like get myself back focused, but also have Peter, who had in the show last time. He was telling me about what I can control, and that mindset of, I was worried about the other person. I was worried about what they were going to do, what was going to happen with them. But he kept saying, what can I control? What am I going to do? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? I'm really putting that mirror in front of me and saying, what can I do? Because I think it's easy. That's what I've really noticed, is it's easy to blame other people. It's easy to say it's them, it's them, it's them. But whenever you look internally about what you can control, that actually becomes empowering. It's a bit vulnerable and it's a bit nerve-wracking to begin with, but that's never it becomes real. That's what I can do at this minute in time, what I can do, instead of thinking about, oh, what if. You can't control that. And that's what it says in this book. It's immediate and it's within your control. That's what you can care about, that's what you can focus on, that's what you can do. And that was a big part of my journey. Of course, I was worried about going into a cage and getting beat up. That's what I was worried about, which is natural. But I was really happy to be able to give the strength to myself and go past it. So yeah. So just over a week, I think, before the fight happened, they found out who we were going to be fighting. And I think that was a big, big turning point for a lot of us. But I think it all started to fit into place. And our coaches were always saying to us, it's not about the other person, it's about you, like I said before. But it's about that respect piece. I think I've always seen fighting as, oh, you hate the other person, like I was saying, and like it's all about anger and you want to beat them. But the way they approached it in city kickboxing was that you respect the sport and the best person on the night wins. And I think, as long as, going back to that Chimp paradox piece of be the best that you can be and start from where you are at, that really started to fit into place. And I was surprised at whenever I first found out who I was fighting, all those things went through my head of what if, like I said. But I think as it got closer to the fight, it did. The coach's advice all started to fall into place of what you can do and what you can control. And so on the weigh-in night, which is the night before, I remember doing all the top tricks that you do, is going to the sauna the night before, and didn't eat all day. And I think that's a big thing. I haven't talked about my food regime yet. Is I drank alcohol from when I came back from Singapore. So that was like 10 weeks nearly of not drinking alcohol, which whoever knows me knows that's a big, big change in my lifestyle. And I wasn't eating cheesy garlic bread from Nando's. I was really, really being strict. And so I reached my goal of going from 78 kilo down to 70, which is basically a stone that I lost in that time. But I was obviously happy, and don't get me wrong, I was aiming for that 70 kg, but the priorities definitely changed. I think that's what I noticed is I wasn't training to lose weight, I was training to get fit. And I think whenever I was younger, there used to be the saying of nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. But then whenever I was training, I heard the quote of nothing tastes as good as healthy feels. And that's definitely, I know it might sound cliche, it might sound this, but that's definitely what my approach is now. And my biggest change is before the Wimp2Warrior experience, I'd be focusing on losing weight, like I say, yo-yo diet, getting into the bikini season. But even though I was happy that I lost the weight and got down to 70 kg, that wasn't my priority. My priority was how am I being as best I can be? How am I being fit? How am I being healthy? And that's a big change that I felt in myself. And so the weigh-in was amazing. Everyone was cheering for each other. Again, we had our looking at each other, had our poses, and I just felt so different. I felt so different than what I thought I was going to feel on that in that space. And it was respect. I think it all comes down to that respect piece of respecting that someone else is training and you're training, and respect of what you can do in that space. And so yeah, it was a really, really fun night, and it was really cool. It was exciting to know that other people are going through what you're going through as well. So yeah. So that brings us to the big day. And do you know what? It's so weird. I honestly, it's so weird to think back at this. And I felt so focused. It's the most focused I felt in the whole time. Like I said, about a week before, 2 weeks before, I was like, I'm not going to do this. It's not going to work. But on the morning, I remember just thinking, I'm here. I've done what I can to get to where I am, and I was really putting in the mental strength that I was been practicing all over those times. And I kept saying to myself, you're only as strong as your weakest member. And that's what was really, really truthful, is if I was going to let myself be weak at that time, then that was it. That was the what's the point in training for all that, going through all that, not eating all those things, not drinking all those things. I had to hold myself accountable and think I've been here and I'm doing the work. And so we went to one of my friends' house to get our hair done. Shout out Jen. Um, and my opponent was actually there. It was really weird to have Leanne there, but it was weird but also normal. I think we were friends before, and all of us were friends and still are friends, but the dynamic did change in that sense of like you were thinking about what if, what is going to happen, what are they going to do, what am I going to do, but the fundamentals of respect were there, and that's what I'm saying about I didn't hate her, I didn't not want to be around her. And I think that was so weird, like the fact that we went and got our hair done in the same place. Um, it just shows that there was that sense of not hatred there. It wasn't about, oh, we can't be around each other, I hate you, you can't do this. It was actually that we respected each other enough to say whatever happens on the night happens. And that was a big takeaway for me. So yeah, I got my hair braided, as you can see in the photographs. And yeah, that made me feel like a fighter. That was whenever I was getting myself into the zone. And I actually went and got a t-shirt, like you can see in the photograph, from Frank, who that was a t-shirt that his brand was on for one of the fights he fights for the people he fights with. And that was really cool to have a t-shirt that had the Irish symbol on it, a shamrock. And yeah, it was getting me in the zone, it was getting me fired up. And on the night then, whenever it came about, I remember seeing the cage, and the cage was when it all got real. The cage was, this is it, this is what we're here for. And again, that feeling that I was talking about at the very start, walking into the gym, that feeling of everyone getting themselves ready, getting themselves padded up, getting themselves wrapped up and everything. It got the hype, it got the blood rushing. And I remember even thinking about it, it was just the most surreal experience. And I kept saying to myself, like, I'm gonna fight, it's happening. But it was just that focus part. And it got to two people before the fight, and then they call your name, and then you have to start training. So as you can see in the video, um, I was training with Brad, and Brad was kind of going through different combinations with me. And again, it was so good to have Jennifer there as well as that person who I felt like they were getting me amped up, and like so she was recording the video, and that was just it was all of it. It was all of it. And like I said, I wanted to go into this to believe in me, but it's not just a solo experience. I think if you try and go through things as a solo being, for me and my takeaways from things, relationships are really a big part of this as well. So I had my support team out there. I had Jennifer at the back. I had my coaches. I had my friends. All the Wimp2Warrior family, and it was just really cool. It was a really really motivating coming down to the whole experience. And then just before the fight, I think this video shows yeah, Rob was recording it, and he's been a really big part of the journey as well because obviously he was training me, he was going through it, and he said that he couldn't believe how focused and how not nervous I was seeming. And I didn't feel nervous. I was such a weird I was so I felt like mentally I was ready because I had done the best that I could. And that was a complete switch in my mental capacity from where I was before. Like I was saying, I can't do this, can't do that, won't be good enough. But I was saying to myself, no matter what, I've done the best that I can. And so going into the fight, we walked out, and that walkout with my flag, I was ready. I felt so pumped, and I was so surprised. I think that's what I was going for, was challenging myself to how I would react in the night. And on the night, I was ready. I was there. And I think that's what I'm so happy with myself for doing it, is because I've proven to myself that I can be there for me. Like, I think I've always said to myself that I can be there for other people. I can be there for everyone else. And people I've talked to have said this. They're always pleasing other people. But you should be one of your own biggest fans, and that's what it is. That confidence isn't about proving that you're like the best of the best. The confidence is that you're believing that in yourself with what you're going through. And yeah, so we went to the fight, and you'll see from the photographs it was stand up in the first round, and I was really proud of myself. I literally felt so in the zone, and it's such a weird feeling because there was one time whenever she punched me, and it brought me into reality. Like I don't remember. I remember the pre-fight. I remember before the fight. I remember all of that, but the fight itself was a bit of a blur. It was very much like the adrenaline was just pumping through me, and but there was one point that I remember being kind of brought back into reality, and my brain being like, "You're gonna fight. You're gonna fight. What are you doing?" But then I brought myself back into it, and I was, yeah, in the first round, I was really, really proud of myself for keeping stand up. That's my strength, I would say. And I think that's what I was worried about, was her strength was stand up and on the ground more. And yeah, in the second round, like I said, respecting the person on the night, she was the better person on the ground in the night, and she won. And that was in itself another obstacle that I had to get over, was how was I going to deal with it whenever I lost. And it's great. You can say all you want whenever you win, but whenever you lose, you have to deal with that. And you'll see from the recording, even in that, I felt exhausted more than anything else to begin with. I felt exhausted, but I did feel like the best person. She was the best person on the ground, and I knew that. I knew that if she got me to the ground, that was going to be something that I had to overcome, and I had to really give my best. And I think I did. I think I did give my best. There was, watching back a little bit of recording, I think the shock of being brought to the ground, definitely, I could have moved myself away, and I could have got back up again, which Eugene doesn't let me down about that. But I think I know that I've come to terms with that's okay. The fact that this is what I could have done better, this is what I could have done next time, this is what but overall, I really believe that I give my all before and during the fight. So yeah, after the fight, it was crazy on that night. It was so much high, so much. I remember ringing my mum and dad afterwards, and I wasn't getting my words out fast enough because their adrenaline was still pumping through my body. And that's what I said to Brad. I understand why you keep going back for more, because that adrenaline is definitely something that can probably becomes addictive. Um, but yeah, I think that that night I was so proud of myself and for the next couple of days. But um, that's whenever on the next couple of days, that was the high and that was the amazing side of things on the night. But I did get concussion. I got concussion like we mentioned with Peter in the last episode. I did get concussion, and that was probably the low. That was way lower than anything I felt before the fight. The low of confusion. As a teacher, you can kind of take in parents talking to you, children talking to you, worried about someone in the playground, worried about what you're going to do next for your lesson, all those things you're thinking about. But in my classroom, probably 3 days after the fight, I was having a conversation with a parent, and I remember just not taking it in, not being able to process, not being able to see that parent, not being able to focus on the place around me, not getting it. And that was the biggest struggle that I had throughout the whole experience. I remember going down and seeing Peter and seeing Jason and just crying. I remember just being like, what is this feeling? So confused about not being able to think. And Peter, the wise words that he shares, said, you've had your high, now this is your low. And that's it. It's acceptance of the fact that sometimes things can be really great, sometimes things can be average, and sometimes they are going to be low. And it comes back to the book again that I'm reading for this weekly book review of suffering. Like you have to accept that things are gonna get bad. And yeah, so like for the next couple of weeks, I was recovering, I was doing different things, going to doctors, and I'm so glad that my school was so supportive of that. They did really support me throughout that time. So thank you so much for my friends and colleagues in that sense. And they told me to accept that the concussion was happening. I think I was just kind of like, oh, I'm fine. But the more I was pushing it, the more I was realizing that I couldn't focus on my screen, couldn't focus on the children. So yeah, I had to accept that part of it. But yeah, I think that whole experience, I don't know what your takeaways would be from it, but I think in this day and age now, where the year and a half, well, the year since I started on the journey and started to think about it, my whole life has changed. And I think the biggest thing is, thank you very much for the person who asked this question, the mental side of things, because I've changed in the fact that I am developing a confidence for myself. Developing is the main word, because it is all about growth, like that theme of growth that I talked about before. Is I am growing every single time I find out something more about myself, but I'm holding myself accountable. So that's the main thing, is whenever I'm not going for a run, I'm accountable for that. If I'm feeling tired or using excuses, I'm accountable for that. And I think that goes towards this element of change, because I'm trying to, for the last couple of weeks, I have not achieved the not biting my nails challenge that I went for, but I have achieved the running every day for running 5 days a week, every single week, and I'm still doing my squat challenge as well. So I'm constantly looking for challenges with myself, not because of the fact that I don't feel like I'm there, because of the fact that I want to keep growing myself and keep holding myself accountable and keep doing more for me, not about worrying about what I'm not doing, worrying about what I can do and keep doing more. That's the biggest transformation that I really felt in myself, and the part that I really am passionate about sharing with this YouTube channel and with the mental health and with my podcast is it's about being mentally healthy. And I think that's a big message that I want to leave you with Israel Adesanya, is about being mentally healthy and taking care of yourself. And this whole journey has changed from me wanting to change myself to me accepting that I want to grow myself. That's the biggest part that I would like to share. And my biggest takeaway from the journey is not wanting to change myself, wanting to grow myself. And yeah, I am so glad that I was able to share this journey with you guys, and I would love to hear your top takeaways. Um, and you can continue the conversation on Twitter at Naomi_Toland or on Instagram at Naomi.m.t. And I'm excited to hear from you guys. And I'm going to leave you just at the end with some words from Israel, because that was a really big takeaway for me as well. I will see you next time.
Hey, what's up? It's Israel Adesanya, UFC middleweight champion of the world. And a little message I've learned recently: not everyone is mentally ill, but if you don't take care of your mental health, you're gonna get ill, just like your physical health. So everyone, take care of your mental health. Mwah.
Thank you.